You good? You want to be over there?
No. It's the action.
Well, this is for you to take with you when you go. And this is, that's you and that's his spot.
I mean, the pizza's more important, so.
Yeah.
Alright.
And Laura just needs a couple more minutes. She's pulling a couple more things together, so maybe we can just go, you can just start.
Yeah, great. All right, let's get rolling. On this meeting, the order at 5:40.
Should we introduce Florence?
Sure, yeah, definitely. Welcome, Florence. Florence is our newest board member, and was at the annual meeting.
Yeah.
If you haven't met, Florence, you know her. Yeah, we're super lucky that you're part of the board now. You've been on the board in the past and are an active master gardener. Yeah, you bring a lot to the table.
Should we just do a quick round of who we are?
Yes. I'm Ashley, board president.
Okay.
Chrissy Lurkey's director for Essex County Office for the Aging.
You know, I know.
Sorry, hi, I'm Jackie Bowen. This is my last board meeting though, so it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
George Sayer, dairy farmer in Wilbur.
I know Tricia. Do you know Master Gardner?
Do you know Matt? There's Matt.
Go for it.
No.
I'm Matt Stanley. I'm the supervisor of the town of Jay. So I'm lifelong 4-H'er, grew up and had cattle, and my kids did 4-H for a little while before travel soccer took over.
I'm Daniel Burhide. I work for the Essex County Soil and Water Conservation District, and I'm our CCE treasurer.
That's nice to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
We're glad to
Welcome,
have you.
Florence. Great. All right, any adjustments to the agenda today? Additions, you can't make subtractions, but any additions to the agenda? All right, so I need a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting, August 26th. I'll make that motion. Thank you, Chrissy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes approved. Do you want to start with the financial report until, I know. it's
I
Laura.
think I'd like to wait until Laura gets here. So Laura's here.
Ta-da.
Come on in, Laura. That's perfect timing.
Sorry, guys.
Lawrence, I don't know if you've met Laura. Laura Nicholson is our finance manager. If you were the finance person.
You look
On the
familiar.
board, I think so.
I've been with Essex since 2016. Something like that.
I was on either. We used to have to share her, now we don't.
She's all ours.
There's no one more grateful.
We probably disagree with you, Lord.
There you go.
Yeah, we might line up for that. Are you ready to start or do you need a minute?
No, I'm ready.
Okay, let's start with October.
Do you want to have the bench?
October, do you want to start with October, the balance sheet and financial statements? It looks like this.
Yep.
Looks like this. It says, is that where you want to start, Laura? I jumped the gun a little bit.
Sorry, yes, so. We should have gotten these ahead of time. Did anyone have any questions on what they received? I'll just do a review. So you should each have a copy of the balance sheet, the statement of operations, and the board summary report for the month ending October 31st, 2024.
So the board summary looks like this. It goes with the balance sheet and the statement of.
So the first 2 pages of the board summary report provide a detailed breakdown of the numbers on the balance sheet. And the last page is a consolidated statement of operations. Let me know when you're ready and I'll begin my review of the balance sheet. Yeah, go for it. Okay. So on page 1, that's the summary. The total cash available is approximately $233,000, which does not include the current value of the CDs of $302,704. The combined cash in all bank accounts is about $6,000 less than it was at this time last year. Total accounts receivable is approximately $78,400, which is an increase of about $40,800 compared to last year. Of the receivables, 91% are current within 60 days, while the remaining 9% are between 61 and 90 days overdue. They're not technically overdue, they're just waiting for a report to be sent, they haven't been sent out. But on our books, it looks like they're overdue.
Oh, is that New York State?
No, New York State has been paying very quickly, actually, this year.
All right.
It's for a CVNHP Sustainable Ag Grant.
Mhm.
We have to record our invoices monthly, but we can't bill them until the tasks are complete, so they haven't actually received the bill. That's why it's not past due,
Okay.
but it has to be recorded in our accounts. Our prepaid expenses amount to about approximately 11,500. 8,700 of that is for prepaid insurance. I added a couple columns in this section to indicate the number of months remaining in the prepaid accounts and the amount expensed each month. Any items with 2 months remaining will be paid in full by December 31st. Any questions on page 1? Move on to page 2. Liabilities. Total accounts payable is approximately 54,500, which includes the Cornell bill of $50,738. This month's Cornell bill includes 3 pay periods for non-exempt staff, resulting in a higher than usual amount. However, this increase was reduced by a payment received from Harvest New York and the reimbursement of our share of the Anne Pratt closeout funds, which collectively reduced our bill by about $9,800. Deferred revenues total around $14,900. I've added a column to this section to indicate when the funding was received. As of last Friday, there was only about $1,000 remaining in Adirondack Foundation Generous Acts Grant funds, which may be spent by the end of the year. I spoke to Megan earlier today and she believes she's gonna have it all in, so we'll be closing out of that, which was from March of 2021. And Jen and her team have done an excellent job providing programming and effectively utilizing the remaining Cloud Splitter Farm to School and Cloud Splitter Matter of Balance funds, as well as the Adirondack Foundation EFD DEI funds. 4-H welding and Happy Trail funds have been carried over to the 2025 budget. They weren't able to plan those programs, but they sort of have a plan for 2025. No guarantees yet. The current total for general and designated fund balances is approximately $525,600. This amount is expected to remain unchanged until year end. Does anyone have any questions about the balance sheet before I move on to the statement of operations? Statement of operations, we are 83% through the year and the net fund transfers and operations is $49,264.91. Budgeted revenues are about 84% and budgeted expenses are at 75%. Any categories that are 10% more or less than expected percentage are highlighted in feature gold on the summary. The individual line items that make up the categories are highlighted on the statement of operations. There aren't any main categories on the summary that are more than 10% over the expected percentage. However, if you look at the statement, there are several line items that are. So if you had any questions regarding individual line items, just let me know. And there's another report that breaks down those line items even more. Program and operating expenses are at 50% because FMPP and New York State Dam Farm to School Our multi-year grants and a few of the larger expenses for trips, contracts, and publicity have been postponed until 2025. All other categories are within 10% of where they should be by the end of October. Did anybody have any questions on the financial statements for the month ending October 31st, 2024?
No. Just wondering why so much in publicity is being postponed until 25.
Because we didn't have staff, for the beginning of the grant, and a lot didn't get done, and then once Cole got on, we started making plans for how these things were gonna take place, but it would be too hard to lump it all into one, you know,
Sure.
he started in July, so you have to lump it all in and plan it, so it's all being stretched out over the remaining 2 years.
Thank you.
I don't know why. Hand signals. So we're ready to get that. Motion for the.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the October 2024 financials.
So
May I have a motion to accept the
that's for
October?
the.
It's already in the minutes. so
Okay.
Accept,
Yeah.
I'll write accept.
I'll move to accept them.
Thank you, Kristen.
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. Any more discussion?
You did.
Sorry.
Great, that was the right order.
Yes.
Okay, great. I got the second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Approved. Okay, so now we're into the 2025 draft budget.
This will actually be the final budget that's
Final.
submitted to Cornell. So I provided, besides the two budget chiefs, I provided an update on our designated and general funds.
So that, what you're looking for on now, and this is the annual budget. This is the designated
Oh.
fund balances. Yep.
Matt, I sent these, I had late in the afternoon, so I sent them to you late. Sorry, you do have them. I apologize for how late they were.
Probably does not have.
All right, I'll check my email.
The designated funds.
Jump this. Do you want to talk about this document?
I just-
Okay, go.
No.
So the designated funds is just an
All right, thank
update
you.
of what we did earlier in the year when we did the preliminary budget. And we are transferring in because of the changes and the new additions of grants, we are transferring $67,458 less than what we had planned on doing.
The original, it was the budget. So you're looking at this is the designated funds budget.
And I'm sorry, Matt, I don't have that for you.
No, I didn't, I just printed it.
So when you approved the preliminary budget back in August, it included transfers of about $75,000 from designated funds, but because of a lot of positive changes, we are not transferring as much of that, as much as you had originally authorized, which is good news. That means we have more in revenue and less in transfers.
Okay, so we have two budget reports. One is the annual budget summary, which is what's required by Cornell. Which breaks down the different funding sources, the totals in our budget. And the second one is the program area project contract or grant. It's a summary of the detailed report.
Where is that?
That's this.
It's the one with yellow line. So you got this one, that's the summary of our, where we're headed for 2025 in summary,
Yeah.
and then this one with these lines is more line by line of information, same information, just more line by line.
Somewhere super colorful in there. So the Board of Supervisors came through.
Well, yes and no.
Well,
An increase from last year, but less than we asked for. But in light of all of the expenses for the county in roads and all kinds of things,
Right.
that is, we felt like that was more than fair. And we had, when you approved the original budget, we did not know about several grants that we received in the fall that helped cover the difference with what the county could not offer. But the good news is that when we asked for more, we had a really good meeting with Mike Mascarenas, the county manager, and he learned a lot about us. And so I think the feeling was really, this was not a year to ask for an increase.
So you were provided the 4%, is that,
We,
or more or less, or?
we,
14.
no, you're talking about cost of living?
No, I'm just saying from last year to this
Oh.
year, what was the percentage of increase that you received in your county contribution?
14%.
Oh.
Yes, and yes.
In-
That-
in- An increase of 14%?
Yes. And, isn't that correct, Laura?
Yes.
And I think it's partly because, the festival, really.
Mhm.
They're really backing the festival. And, also because we did follow their cost of living increase recommendation,
Mhm.
which was more expensive than it would have otherwise been percent-wise.
So the annual budget summary, the one that has only the blue highlighting, that's required, but I'm not gonna review that. I'm gonna review the other one because I feel like it gives us more of the type of information that we need here. So on page 1 is all the revenues. The peach highlighting is the new funding, which is Cornell Public Health, $7,000 contract, a grant from Cornell. CVNHP, Ag Display and Curriculum, those are two that we had for 2024, but they didn't work out, but we still have the contracts. So we're going to be doing those in 2025. The Mary Grant is new funding. It's over a 3-year period, and there's 101,800 in 2025. Our second New York State Farm to School grant new funding is $42,567. Which gives us a total revenue of almost 1.4 million. And our total expenses are $1,429,000. So in order to balance the budget, we needed to balance from our transfer accounts, fund accounts, which is at the bottom of page 1. So the transfers from the fund accounts are a revenue. So the only thing that changed was the cuisine trail was slightly less than what we had originally included in 2025 for projected transfer, and our general fund, which is $63,600 less than what was included in the preliminary budget.
It's a lot to digest. If you have questions, don't hesitate. I think the big takeaway is that our budget, the budget that we're proposing is $1.4 million. It's about 100,000 more than last year. And we can, when we go through the expenses, we can talk more about where those fall. Any questions? Take a minute, feel free.
This website expense is that like the last payment on that? Update of the website, or is that still ongoing or what?
That's still ongoing, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. We are having a really wrestling match with the risk management. People who have really high expectations for what the vendor carries in insurance and general liability insurance. And they're not backing down. And so, at this point, that's budgeted to be spent, presuming that we can resolve that insurance problem. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more. It's really a challenge. And, I'm not sure how to get out of it, but I want y'all to know about it. So we do expect that the work that we budgeted will take place. As soon as we can get over that hurdle.
So there's not really much to say about the expenses. The colors are coordinated with the revenues. The Mary grant, the expenses are less than the total grant because it includes a 7.5% interest cost rate, which helps offset mine and Elizabeth's and Lori's salary. And the same thing with FMPP community development and training. So overall, our net from operations is negative 36,700, which we need to include the transfers of 36,000 to balance the budget. So in addition to the revenues we have on here, which brought our transfer way down, there are other possible funding sources. If we receive the NERM Succession Planning Grant Part 2, which Cole has applied for, there'll be an additional $26,000 salary offset and an additional $7,500 for indirect costs. So, and in addition to possibly receiving the second NERM grant, because we haven't heard back yet, we're going to be receiving that 75. We will be receiving 7,500 for the current year grant for Cole to write a more in-depth report. We will also be receiving a contract with Adirondack Action for $7,725. And that will be an offset for Sam and Jen, but we don't have anything in writing yet, so it wasn't included in the budget, but I guess it's 99%. Right, that would be.
Yeah, those are they're committed, except for the NERM, the 15,000 from the two small ones, 80K Action, and from the extension that they offered us for another task on the first succession planning grant. Those are secure. That's 15,000. The others, the NERM grant is for 75,000, but only 26 of that would be for association costs. The rest would all go to stipends for partners, the way the first one did.
So you haven't heard back on that one?
Correct.
Yeah,
We
okay.
won't hear until February.
So the 2025 budget looks great. We are in a much better place than we were when we did the preliminary budget. And if we receive that second NERM grant, we'll be in an even better place. And on the transfer account, the year-end projected transfers, that I believe will be higher as well. I haven't had a chance to do an updated projected transfer, but I think we'll be ending the year better than we thought as well, because we had 3 months of 2 different grants in there that we didn't have when we did that one. So we're in excellent shape.
There are 2 things that I wanted to point out, and I for sure want to hear any of your questions. One, I feel pretty excited about our move to the CDs, that we moved quite a bit of our designated funds to CDs earning 4%. And Laura showed me some math this afternoon that made me smile. Through 2022, the fund balances made $400 and 393. No, actually 460. Whatever. Yeah, 393. So then in 2023, we had more money in the bank, and it made $4,100, almost $4,200. This year with the CDs, our interest income was almost 7,300. So
As of October.
So by the end of the year, it will be a significant increase because we moved them into hiring CDs.
Can you remind me how long is that a contract or like a commitment for like 3 years locked in at that rate?
13 months, and so some of them started in June, one started in June, one started in, I'm not sure what the terms
So
of
it
them
looks
are.
like there's projections with the new presidential administration coming in that those will start to tank.
Yep.
Understand.
But we got a good run there for the
Yeah.
minute and a half that we got to do it. Yes, there are lots of things we could talk about. in terms of revenue and under the new administration. I don't, since we have no hard facts, I can't make very realistic projections.
How much federal funding do we get?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So I want to do a couple things. Let's go back, that, since you asked that question, Jackie, if you go back to the summary, it breaks it down, and the federal funds is right at the top. New York State funds is next, and the county appropriation is next, and that's by far the bulk of our income. So you can see for 2025, we're budgeting 365,000. Those are all in contracts. So, and our federal contracts go through 2026. So presumably those are secure. The New York State contracts, if you look at that, we get our fringe benefits from New York State, from Cornell. And we have no idea what the impact will be to the state from whatever happens at the federal level.
Right, yeah.
But those fringe benefits theoretically should not go backwards. It's possible that our New York State 224 contracts might go down. We don't know. The county appropriation, when there are cuts above, they trickle down. So the combined Harvest Festival and county appropriation for programming is higher this year. No guarantees, because honestly, I don't know how it works. Maybe you know, Chrissy, if there is some catastrophic event in the county, if they can change that. We have signed our contract. Or no, we haven't. Lori, we haven't signed our contract yet, only for the Office for the Aging contract work, but we have not signed our contract with the county. That will happen in January. So,
Right, we haven't even seen.
right,
that
we
yet.
haven't seen that yet. So,
And yours is in. Held up in risk management, but
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
It's all done.
yeah. So does that answer your question, Jackie?
Yeah, thank you.
So, the one other thing that I think is really important to point out, about this budget. If I was on this board, I would be asking this question, which is that we, have, if you look on the next page of the annual budget summary, page 2. The expense category for payroll is significantly higher, and I wanted to explain that. Primarily, most of it comes from hiring Laura. So we shared Laura with another county, and that, and we paid for that with a contract. And in March, late February, early March, Laura moved over to being a full-time employee, so that, most of that increase is from her salary, which we couldn't really do without. You can't run $1.5 million worth of grants through an organization without having someone who knows as much as Laura does. And,
Big chunk of it is Megan.
and right, so we also had, when Megan, she transitioned from our association to being a Harvest New York employee, but we didn't budget to cover that salary. And we expected that they were gonna pay that more of that salary than
We put in the 25% because she was gonna be 75% Harvest New York and 25% extension. We should have put her in the full amount because it was a contract with them where they reimburse us for being 75%.
but it shows up as an expense
Right.
of ours. So, and then the other thing is the cost of living increase that, is expensive this year. And, we followed the county, which was $1.20 an hour. And there, I think we talked about that before. The reason for it was to try and close the gap between increases. 3% of, if you have a higher income, 3% is a significantly bigger amount of money than if you're an hourly employee. So we tried to match what the county did. I thought it was a really good idea. But that did result in a significant increase. Because of the grant funding that we had, and because we are showing a net revenue in 2025, it supported that decision to try and put what is the most important thing on all the staff's mind, which is compensation. To try and put that first in our budget. And So the other thing that I think I've been talking about with you all for a couple of years now is to try and get everybody at least to a minimum threshold in the percentile of the compensation range that we're given for cooperative extension employees. And we still didn't make it in 2024, but this budget will get everybody up to actually the 40th percentile for the compensation scale. And I feel like that's a big leap forward for us, but I'm hoping that that will recognize their work, because I feel like it's really important not to base compensation on some of the kind of sort of subjective evaluation of merit. I really don't like that system. So this is trying to get everybody to move up into the same percentile. And some are slightly over because it's just hard to align all the math, but it will make me feel like we've taken a really important step toward compensation, which translates into more retention and more job satisfaction and more sustainability for the staff who have to live in the environment that we live in, where everything costs more. So I feel like it's justifiable.
You said it was $1.20 an hour raise.
Mhm.
Did you just multiply that by 40 hours then? Because most people are salary.
By the salary staff was multiplied by 40 hours.
Yeah.
The hourly staff was multiplied by 37.5, and the part-time staff, which is 30 hours. is multiplied by 30 hours.
Okay, yep, cool, got it.
So, yeah, I had a couple of other things that I
I have another payroll. question.
okay, great. Yeah, no, it's related. Go ahead.
You said that, the budget for the payroll salaries budget is increasing for 2025 because of Laura, but you started in February or March, so really 2024.
When the
increased.
budget was created, I wasn't in the budget as a salaried person. I was in the budget as contract.
So her salary does not show in the 2024 budget at all under payroll,
Oh, okay, got it, thank you.
because it showed as a contract. It didn't show as payroll. Now that contract is zeroed out, but also from half-time to full-time or to 32 hours.
And then the same thing with Megan's, only 25% of her salary showed.
Oh, showed up right there, will be, okay.
So that would be what, let me just, so I can understand it, that would be, so on page 3. The program operating expenses, that's why those are down, because you took that contract out. Or where would we have found that contract for you, Laura?
It's in program and operating expenses.
that's why-
Line 167, line 1.
67, it's part of contracted services.
Yeah, so that's how
It's
part of
embedded
the
in there.
decrease in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm happy so Daniel looked at all of this stuff and asked a lot of other questions. Do you want to add anything? Thank you. I mean, if you have questions, please do. I did want to point out that something that I think is important for y'all to know, which is that out of our $1.4 million budget, 600,000 is salary. That's about 42%. And then about 500,000 is the in-kind for our fringe and for our rent for this building, so that's about 36%. And then 400,000, which is about 30%, is the programming expenses that include all our insurance and all of our utilities and all of our program supplies. And so that, and of the $600,000 in salary that we're paying, 360,000 a year is paid for with grants. So that the bulk of our appropriation is going to the people, which I feel like is pretty appropriate. You can't do programs unless you have people. You have to. So, yeah, I want you all to feel comfortable with how that actually breaks down, and any questions are welcome.
You said that when you were talking about getting us up into the 40% percentile, you're talking about across the board and other associations in Cornell?
Cooperative Extension provides a compensation scale, which is provided every year by an outside agency that calculates that scale based on geography and industry, and they really pay a lot of money for it because the CCE does, because it aligns the position description, so it's kind of apples to apples comparisons of compensation. And when I got here, we had some people who were not even on that scale, and some people were very high. And so I've been trying to kind of get that, so everybody's a little bit closer. And we were, pretty much everyone except for me was at the 35th percentile until this past year. And so we're trying to get everybody in that percentile. And the reason why I feel like we're able to do that is partly because the staff is very good at getting grants. Otherwise, I don't think that we would be able to do that.
So, in the past, you mentioned the word merit, in the past, it was proposed to the board that at times that some of our staff compares to other associations in Cornell. Were below. Where they thought that they should be. In comparison to the whole state. So, some people in charge back at that time brought up proposals that some of those people on merit alone needed a bump in their salaries. Now, if we've met that percentile, does that mean that if we have a real good employee that on their merit deserves more salary, is that going to go out the window now, or is that still in play?
No, my feeling is that we have 12 employees who all deserve, who all are meritorious. They're all good workers, they all work hard, they're all good at their jobs, and they're either being coached to make up things that they don't know, or they're actively going out and seeking it. And I personally think that merit is very subjective. And so what I'm proposing to do is get everybody into the same percentile. And then a factor that we haven't really considered, which I would like to add into consideration next year, is seniority. Because we have staff members who've worked here for 20 years. And I would like that to be considered. And I think that other associations do have a calculation for seniority. And then the other way that I can increase compensation for people who I want to keep the base salaries in an equitable formula. That's what I want to do. And then if there's additional responsibility that someone takes on, which has happened, when there were gaps in staff, or when there was something that just had to get done, to be able to have the flexibility to provide a one-time compensation adjustment for that work, that extra work they do. But it's really hard to say because of someone's income and performance, or position classification, that they work harder than somebody else, because that's not true. And so that's why what I would love to do, which that we haven't had here, is that there be a kind of transparent compensation plan that includes these kinds of things, so everybody knows what they're getting into when they're working here. That we'll do I can't guarantee that we'll be able to keep everybody in the 40th percentile, but I'm gonna try. And I think also the other thing that we can do to help people see a path forward is to show them how they can advance, so they can get a reclassification possibly, so that they can be in a higher scale. So it's for the 40th percentile for their classification. And if they can and want to advance, then we can try and help them by creating a pathway to that advancement, by maybe they get another degree, or maybe they take on extra responsibilities for 6 months, and then we can advance them. The CCE classification system is quite rigid. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to do it, but we want to help people who want to do it. And we have several staff members that do. So I hope that it doesn't throw my scheme off, but it's challenging.
Now you sound like a union negotiator.
It's very similar to DEC or a federal classification. Is it similar to that?
I would say it might even be more rigid. And I have no control over that. That's what there's good news and bad news about the CEC bureaucracy. That's one of the things that most people don't like.
So I'm similar to George. I feel like that there are places where merit-based is appropriate and that's just coming from a different organization, slightly different world, but. I do think that merit-based can be appropriate in some circumstances as opposed to like a one-off. Kind of like you take on the extra work, which I think is great, because I don't think that's always compensated in the right ways. Like most people take something on that's just part of this ever expanding. This is your job.
Other duties as assigned.
Um,
Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't have a straight formula. I've never worked in a system that's this rigid. And I've never, the classifications are very, very finely tuned and very specific and very hard to get around, and you can only advance one classification at a time, even if you go and get a PhD. And so what I would like to do is I'd be happy to have a conversation and have input, because I really feel like I do want to have the most transparent and fair and kind of positive pathway for more money, because that's what everyone wants. And so I would like to have other associations actually the board adopts a compensation plan. So that when you are hired, you get the plan and you know what the gym is, so that you're not really disappointed or angry when you go, wait a minute, what? My hands are tied here. I can't get better. I can't make more money, or I can't do whatever I want to do. And that shouldn't be a reflection of my personal decisions. It should be a reflection of the board's plan. And that's what I would prefer.
As part of my conversations with Elizabeth about over the budget, we have had conversations about recruitment and retention. And I think over the past couple of years, we've seen actually since her tenure here, growth and establishing a baseline, I think was one of the first steps going towards that 40th percentile, making sure that everyone is fairly compensated. We've made adjustments along the way to recognize some of those achievements, individual achievements, as well as changes in personnel and transitions that I think have brought everyone to a baseline. And it's from that, then you can build and you can begin to discern where people are achieving maybe more than is anticipated or expected at their out of their position. So I think this is the right direction, and you've achieved something that probably should have been done many years ago, but it took you taking the leadership to get here. So I think you deserve some credit for getting people where they are now. Is there more room to grow? Absolutely, but I think we're at a place now where we can finally say what is working, what isn't. Now that we've established the baseline.
I think so too, and I think really the purpose is wanting to make this a good place to work. And that means money, and that also means work environment. We have a ways to go, or at least a year to go before we have a really nice work environment. But it also includes, we have gotten remote work agreements where everybody's almost all in. But so that we are trying to make it possible for every single person in the building to be able to work remotely at least one day a week. And depends on the position. And so that's again, another thing that we do, so that people feel like this is a good place to work, that it's not just not have to go. So that's another thing that we're trying to do. We're also, I do have another idea that I'd like to try and do next year, but I'm not really, until we close 2024, I don't want to propose it officially. Everybody in this office uses their own personal cell phones for work. We cannot afford to buy everyone's policies, but we could certainly make, what I was gonna propose after we close 2024 and see where we wind up, is that we give every staff member who needs to use their phone for work $25 a month toward their personal plan, because unless we're gonna give them a phone, they're gonna use their personal phone.
Yeah, but we should talk about that, because I think there's some liability issues too about
Yeah.
using their own cell phone. However,
Well,
there should be a policy about that for sure.
I know that I've been researching it from other associations, and some people don't want to take it because it means that potentially, not actually, someone could look at their cell phone. So they just don't take it. But that's their choice. At least we're offering it, and it's not part of their compensation. I think it's not in the same category as like their pay, their I don't know how they work, if they get taxed on it or not. Yeah, I didn't think so. So we can talk about that, but since I didn't have enough information, I'm not actually pitching that right now, but it's another way that we can keep trying to make this a good place to work.
I think that's so awesome, like separate phones, I think it's really important, like, I don't know about other people, but the amount of calls I get from folks
Yeah.
that I don't want having my personal number is pretty intense. And also the council pays for phones for all staff, and I think that there's some workarounds that we've worked on to make that happen, so we can connect in anyway, like.
I need more information, because I've asked a bunch of other CCE associations, but, there's a lot of. It can be expensive, it's like $80 a month per phone is what one person told me.
Yeah.
That's a lot, that's $800 a month, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But I
And,
would rather assume the liability than have
Yeah.
individuals using their personal cell phones.
well, to the extent possible, we also we do maintain landlines, so
Yeah.
that to the extent possible, everyone can make their phone calls from a landline, that's CCE on it.
Yeah.
So that they don't, but they're still. 4-H parents contacting people, like, there's a lot that I don't like about it, so I wanna get it better, but you gotta take one step at a time.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, that's a separate issue, and we should actually talk about that at some point in the future. The last thing I'll say about the state of the budget is that I know that I don't look at. Well, rather, I have been working with Elizabeth on focusing in on, in some ways, the big picture, and one of the things that I appreciate, and we've stated this already, is that I feel like the organization is in a good place, and one of the things to again highlight was that we did make a request to the county board of supervisors for additional money. They adjusted that budget, but we made up, and we hoped we were going to be in this place, made up for it in grants. What we need to do is continue to identify how are we going to manage a sustainable budget in the future that is a mix of county appropriation, grants, and other revenue. That's something that, again, I know Elizabeth is really focused in on, but right now we're in a good situation where the county is supporting us and supporting the growth, and we're continuing to achieve and be successful at getting additional revenues elsewhere. So
Yeah,
we're good.
thank you. I think that the mix of our state, federal, and county appropriations are pretty good in our grant money. And I will say that I want you all to really consciously be aware of the amount that we have in fund balance. That's really important to me that you see that. And the reason why, there's two reasons why that's really important to me. Some people look at it and go, "You're sitting on a big pot of money, why don't you give it away?" Well, that's not the the approach that I would take, because let's face it, the next year is gonna be a roller coaster financially at best. And this cushion is barely a half a year. It's less than that. It's about 30% of our operating budget. So when I come to you in January and see whenever the 2024 is closed out and we see what net revenue we have, I'm probably gonna be asking you to put more into that, just as a cushion, so that people can get paid for at least 6 months. If the world goes crazy, that people will still get a paycheck. That's really, really important to me. And it's a kind of security that actually many of the staff do not value. They're like, "I want my money now." But that's not how I sleep at night. I need to know that they're gonna get paid. And so I want you to be aware that we do have a very generous fund balance. I mean, that's what that's what this page is all about. That shows you how much is sitting in reserve if we need it. It's almost $500,000. And I think that's appropriate for an organization that's got 12 people who work here. I want to ensure.
If we get to a point in time where we have more, and we have more than 6 months, then maybe it might be our fiscal responsibility to ask, are we asking people to have, but there. In the meantime,
Well,
given what we do and what programs we have, I think we're doing something appropriate for the taxpayers.
We talked about that, I think a couple of months ago, and you said that they gave us a 14% increase. I should have asked Matt when he was on here.
Yeah, I wish Matt was there.
I was wondering how other agencies that they fund, what kind of percentage that they received, or is it across the
Well,
board or something?
Christie
like that?
noticed that she noted that, of course, most of the agencies, the contract agencies were all asked to take less than they had requested. And it was generally speaking, I think, a 4% increase across the board.
Yeah, and here's what I think about that. When I went in and talked to Mike, who runs a county and all the different county departments. We support the Office for the Aging, the Office for Mental Health, the IDA, Community Resources. We are an integral part of some of the county projects and budgets. And so he sees it as a return on investment and he doesn't have to hire the staff.
I think it was a cumulative thing, so it was treating CCE in a
Right,
sense.
that's what I said when we talked about it before.
Right.
The work that we do for the county is saving them a ton of money because I've harped on this since day one. When we contract with the county, we pay not only, the salary for that work, but we also pay fringe benefits for those people that are doing that work. And the county is getting off scot-free because they don't have to pay that employee the fringe benefits. You look at the money that we spend here every year in our employees' fringe benefits, it's a lot of money.
425,000.
So, I, like I said before, I would really harp on them about that a lot of this contract work that we're doing, we're saving the money in the long run. But the other thing is, it, it's hard. If I was sitting there as a county supervisor, okay, and they look at our budget and they see our balance and everything else, and here we are asking for more and more money all the time, and we continue to have our balance in our fund increase all the time. One of these days they're gonna say, well, why should we keep giving you more and more and more all the time when you're, a lot of that money, you're getting a bigger fund balance all the time, when we had no money. Okay, that's one thing, but with a fund balance of $500,000, and we're asking for a 14% increase from the Essex County taxpayers, that, if I was a town supervisor, I'd say, I'd be looking at that very closely, but.
Well,
But I would say though, like looking at 14% on the 2024 appropriation to Cornell to the 2025, 14%, yes, does sound big. But Laura, help me if I'm not mistaken, that is really that one appropriation that is only $14,000. So 14% sounds big.
14% is only 14,000 on what the appropriation is from the county?
That's $14,000 increase. Laura, I want to recalculate the 14%. I don't think it's that high. I think it's but I might be wrong. It is $14,000.
$14,000.
So I wasn't gonna bring that up until went home and when I went back and looked at it, but
Sorry.
no, but I don't know the answer. But the other thing, George, that I feel like I'm a taxpayer too.
Yeah.
I'm a taxpayer. And when I had that really good conversation with Mike Mascarenas, and there were Linda Wolf and the other people in the room were like, oh, we do things that nobody else can do. We do the work that we're doing in agriculture, succession planning, even the senior wellness programs, like we do things that other people can't do. So that is a very good return on investment for that $14,000, or well, in this case, that $370,000 is a good return on investment for what they get back. The food system in this county is stronger because we are here and it costs money to do it. And that's what they want. It's not just a food system, that's our economic base right now. I don't need to convince you about how important farming is. Nobody else is gonna do it. No one else does it now. No one else is gonna do it. And so they don't want us to collapse in a heap. They want to make sure, and Mike asked me some very pointed questions about whether we have reserves. Because he was specifically asking the question, if I give you money I wanna know you aren't gonna fall apart. I wanna know that you have an organization that's sustainable, because I'm not gonna make an investment in something that isn't stable. And I think that actually in some of the other contract agencies, and I'm not casting stones, I think that he didn't have confidence that they were gonna be able to do what they said they were gonna do. And, so,
But 14% of what our
This is
appropriation is.
3.8.
You know, it's only 3.8%. 14 was our original request.
Right.
That we didn't get. That was
14,
14%.
and maybe it's getting confused.
Yeah,
with
because it's-
14,000.
it's $14,000.
Even 10%.
Which is better.
would be
3.8,
40,000.
it's only
4%.
3.8,
I
it's
did that too, I was like,
3.8%.
right?
But I wanna make sure.
10% would be around 40 grand.
It's, yeah,
No, it's,
So-
And that was, my understanding is across the board.
Yeah.
I can't speak for all contract agencies, because I have multiple, Cornell being one of them, was, my bigger ones were 4% across the board, because especially
So
what you
we're right
said.
in line with everybody else.
The, you know, with all the
I'm
weather
surprised that-
events.
He
Yeah.
didn't jump on that, say something. He should have known that it wasn't 14.
no, you know, honestly, he's been really supportive of asking specific questions, so it's really hard for him to be familiar with all the little budgets that they come right,
Oh.
they come by his
he
desk.
also just opened this like 10 minutes into the meeting because
Yeah.
it got sent late.
So, apologies for that. It was $14,000. It's
No,
closer to 4%.
Sorry, my
That
fault.
makes sense.
But,
I added some last minute notes and.
Honestly,
when you were talking about the salaries and so on and so forth. And then you mentioned seniority, which I am totally in favor of a seniority system. Okay? Being an ex-union guy, I'm totally in favor of it. Cause I know the advantages of it, but, I got a question about. Our employees now, do they get like vacation, added vacation because of their time served? Okay, so in other words, in reality, you have somewhat of a seniority system already in place.
except it doesn't really kick in frequently enough. So how many years do you have to work to get the increase?
It's 14.
Yeah.
14 years.
Before, no, not before you get earned time. We have very
No.
generous earned time, but before
You get,
seniority impacts.
before you get a
your earned time.
little bump in the.
And when we're talking about a little bump, it's from 8 point something days to,
Well, it's from 1 3/4 days a month to 2.08 days a month.
we're not really talking about a
It's huge,
significant.
but it is,
after
it's
14
nice,
years.
I'm not gonna lie. It's nice to have a little extra.
But
But, is that the only benefit that is based on basically seniority?
That I know
yes,
of.
Do any associations or extensions or whatever, offer any type of a longevity benefit or anything?
so
like
that's
that?
what I've been exploring, and that's, I had to make sure that I got it, I'm trying to get us to the baseline.
Yep.
And that's what I want to put in a compensation plan, because some do, and some have them. For two reasons, because say you have two employees in the same position, one's been there for 5 years and one's been there for 1 year, and they make the same amount of money. I guarantee you there will be a fire brewing, and so,
County contract, there's fires brewing all the time, because
Mhm.
that's exactly what the county is at, right? I shouldn't say exactly, but
right.
yeah.
So that's why we need to get ahead of that, but you just can't give random. Well, you've been here for this long, or, I mean, you know, Lori and Laura are the two people who have worked here the longest, and Samantha. And they each have totally unique and individual jobs. And, so it's really hard to just say, I just don't like it to be random. It feels unfair. I want it to be based on something.
Yep.
But I agree that, the employees that have been here a long time deserve a lot of recognition and credit. It's not easy to work here all the time, and have been underpaid for a very long time. So, that's why I'm hoping that we can like write it down, make a plan, everyone can agree to it, feel like it's fair. The board can decide on it, and then the staff will know what it is, and we'll see that it's not just. Arbitrary, that's.
So
what
as I mentioned before, we've had this conversation in part because it is related to the budget, but. That is now a separate conversation. Of recruitment and retention plan should be worked on, and George, thank you for volunteering. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Better have it done quick.
In the- But I would, if there isn't anything else related to recruitment and retention that's related specifically to this budget, I would suggest we get your time.
Sounds like we're almost ready for a motion to approve the 2025
Yes,
final budget. Did I say all that right?
yes.
Okay.
Woo-hoo.
I move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tricia. Any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved.
Thank you all so much. I can tell you there will be some very grateful staff members.
Thank you.
Including me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you,
It's been a
Laura.
rough.
Yes.
Loads of your work is into this, I know.
Oh, yes. And I will just say again, between Laura and Lori, I don't know who to share the credit with, how you want to share the credit. But the facts of this budget and this programming is completely reliant on their amazing expertise, and I can't say that.
What happens what happens in 3 months, you know, between when you submit the budget and now, I mean, it's incredible, so.
Well, it is fully a team
It's
effort
an
to,
achievement to get to this point.
and the reporting comes from Laura's end, the compliance and training, some of that comes from Lori's end to work with the staff to get all the things in so that all the reports can happen, those things can be
So many moving parts.
a lot. So thank you so much for that extra time and effort that goes in, and we're grateful. Okay, staff
there
program
anything
report.
That you want to highlight on the?
No, you have this here.
We all have a copy.
It's nice news. It's kind of nice to have good news. I feel really excited, but I don't want to shortchange you on those, but I want to respect your time because it's already 27. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, my report really, I have a lot of things that I did this year and that I could tell you about. But I think really the most important thing, well, I'll give you a couple highlights, but then there's one thing I really want to talk about. Is we have 5 new staff members and a program of public health fellow. This year, that's been a lot for the staff, for Lori to onboard, for Laura to process all that stuff, for them to learn the system, and Jake is only 4 or 5 months into his position, so lots of changes. I think it's all going in the right direction. Strategic planning, I want you to know, because of all these other things, the fine tuning or the finishing touches have not put on that, but it will be done in January. And staff has had a good chance, a good look at it and give some really good and important feedback, and there have been changes, and I think you'll like them. So I'll share that. Really excited about that new mentoring grant. $300,000. I gotta tell you that today I was on the Brief Coalition phone call, and there's a lot of people who are really, really excited about that in the community. Like, that's what they've been working towards, and having a sort of, well, somebody said, well, a big brother, big sister program. And we wanted that for a long time. And I was like, we're going to have that. We are starting this mentoring culture that we're going to grow. I feel good about it. And a lot of other community people do too. I've spent a lot of time with the Board of Supervisors this year, which I think has yielded good results. And partnered with a lot of offices and departments that I think is going really well. That public health corps fellow, if y'all haven't met Kate Graciano, she's just great. She's totally filling everything in all these places. Everyone's working with her. It's on some project or other, and her portfolio is pretty much anything that has to do with local food and health. And she's just a really enjoyable and eager person who's really doing great work, and somebody else pays her. It's pretty great. We have her for 2 years, so she's 4 months into it. Oh golly, y'all should know this. Holy smokes, the staff just did their program reporting. 8,400 direct contacts and over 9 million indirect contacts from this office. That's a lot of work. Direct contacts means people in programs and people doing things actively, and indirect contacts is from our social media and our e-news, which is just tremendous new visibility or more visibility. So that's great. And just the other things that I've been working on for our offices, as I said, just continue to try and make this a good place to work, and communicating about really working with the staff on being an inclusive and welcoming place. There's a lot to that. It's not easy. It's slow moving and it's hard in a community that has an extremely more homogeneous demographic, but, we keep talking about it. It's really important to us. Challenges, this is a really, there's a whole bunch of things ahead to look forward to, but I really need you to discuss this one thing. We are just in a real, as I say, wrestling match with our risk management team. We inherit them, we don't get to choose them, we can't put it out to bid. And they're difficult, they're very difficult, and almost everything that we submit to them comes back with some extra requirement. And it's really gumming up the works. It's hard. Lori has like over 100 contracts for the festival, correct? That are all at like who needs $1 million worth of car insurance or whatever the heck it is for someone who's gonna come and do a workshop on flowers, and then up to a bigger level, which is the one that George pointed out. They're asking for what is it, the general liability policy of $1 million, is it $1 million?
Well, right, and it's not even the level, it's just having a general liability policy for a digital. These are completely remote. There's no on-site work. There's no driving to us. There's nothing but these people sitting behind their computers and manipulating our website. So they have professional liability policy. That is absolutely compliant with what PWA is looking for. They actually have the automobile policy as well. But they don't have the general liability policy. So Elizabeth did reach out to Jamie Ferris today, who's the head of PWA, to find out what specifically are you concerned about? Like what will the general liability, how will that
What will
ease
it
your mind?
protect us from?
Yeah, what will that be protecting us from? How did you interpret his response?
Get it anyway.
Yeah, with it, you just have to have it. You just have to have it.
And it's causing us difficulty to do business. You can't move forward with the vendor to get the work done if they don't have the policies that he specifies. And especially for the small ones, it's one thing for a web design company, which is maybe bigger, but maybe not that much bigger. I don't know how many people work there, but for individual contractors, it's the same story, and they're small. They're just small. They're never going to have that level of insurance. So the question, and I wish I could bring you a solution, but I just don't have one. I don't know what to do. Is how much risk do you feel that we can assume without having them sign off on it? Because we have insurance. We have insurance that covers CCE for general liability, for professional liability, and we have all, but so, worst case, if the website crashes, well, it's backed up somewhere, so how big is that risk,
And that's covered under their professional liability.
And that's covered under their
They
professional
do have
liability.
that.
So I am just in this state where I feel like just an MOU with the social center to have the 4-H kids meet there. Like, are you kidding me? No, we don't, they're not gonna provide the level of insurance that they expect. So can I just go ahead and sign that MOU anyway, or? I don't know. I just feel like my hands are tied until if I can't check all his boxes. But I don't want to put the association at risk. And I don't know what your all's risk tolerance is, and I don't really know how to analyze it because I'm not an insurance person. I don't know what is the probability that a web designer is gonna.
Fall and break his leg
Yeah.
while he's working on their
Well,
website.
you don't have to tell me anything about this stuff, being self-employed, let me tell you. This insurance stuff it's unbelievable, and then when you have. Like when I had the corn stand, I had to have a special $2 million liability, policy just for the corn stand, when I had a $2 million liability policy on the whole farm. But because I had a private business, another business, the only thing is, it doesn't seem like it would be that complicated, seeing how it's only a 1-day thing. They have to understand that this is not a year-round
activity with the harvest. I'm talking about the harvest.
Yeah.
Oh, right, with a festival,
Okay,
right.
not this operation, but the harvest. I mean, I've had to take out liability policies for something that maybe I was gonna do for a week or something, but which, you know, it's been a while since I've had to do that, but it was not that complicated back then, but Lord knows it. I know nothing has gotten any simpler, but I tell you what, the way people are today, you wanna make sure you got all your P's and Q's, because before you know it, our balance could be less than zero with these people today, because that Adirondack Harvest Festival down there, I would think would be a higher, you know, high risk
Some of them are.
activity.
Right, so the people like the wagon rides, the stilt walkers, the people who could really get into trouble.
Yeah,
They're
somebody
fully
parking
covered.
cars or
We've
anything
got,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So, it's a smaller, somebody who does a little woodworking and wants to just set up a
You should
table.
talk to the people that have the fair.
Oh, they don't,
They,
We don't wanna go there.
we don't need to go there, but in any case, no, I mean, we
It's
get to
just,
the festival, Paul would like to chip in.
yes.
Paul,
I-
let's hear.
But I can wait my turn. I don't want to interrupt the flow. I just was
Oh, we
raising
need
my
some
hand.
insights here. We're just like at no, no, and no. So if you have some, yes, give it to us.
Well, I wish I did. All I can say is it's an active conversation. We've heard this. We've put out a survey. Elizabeth knows this, but make the rest of the board aware. We put out a survey for, what's going well, what needs improvement, specifically around risk management. And we're meeting with PW Wood to walk through that because it is an extremely complicated issue. The reality is that we do get general liability coverage as a system, which benefits everybody in this day and age. So far, I don't know if we went to different carriers, if we'd even if not only would we potentially have to pay a lot more for insurance, but we may not even be able to get it. It's that type of complicated issue. So what you're raising is not new to me. I wish I had a way to say, go, give you some guidance of go one direction or not. I can't at this point. The best I can say is we got to understand the issue, from the insurance perspective. But as you talk tonight, those costs are going up and up and up, and all of us are really working in a more litigious environment. So it's really hard to know how do you balance that risk management with the costs of, because risk management's there that, make something up with the website. I'm completely making it up with the website. What if that new website got hacked and somebody's personal information got stolen somehow, or defamation of character or something? Easily going to be $1 million plus lawsuit. How do you protect against that? Is it the association that wants to take that risk? Is it the vendor? And I'm not asking any answers on this. I'm saying those are the types of things that are coming up that these conversations didn't happen like this 20 years ago. We're into a different era, and that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's fair, Paul, and I will actually give an answer in that they do have a cyber policy too. So they've covered all the digital is what, and I can't make this decision. Elizabeth, I don't know who's gonna make the decision, or we just go with a different company. But these people have been working with us in some capacity.
When she says that, she means
Yeah.
go with a different website designer.
Website designer,
Because the
right.
website designer that we've chosen, that we've awarded through a competitive bid, that we would have
Right.
to renege on because they don't have the policy, the insurance required by our risk management team. So what do we do? I don't know.
Right.
Does anybody have it?
Well, that's what we'd have to maybe find another company. I don't know, this Solassis is their name, their digital website development. They were actually shocked to find out that they needed, like, why would we need general liability? We're not coming to your building, we're not getting in cars, we're not doing anything physical. I suppose they're sitting there, they could get sciatica or something, I don't know, but.
Well, as an aside, the one thing that I can offer, and again, Elizabeth, I wouldn't make an answer right here, but if it would help to have a call that maybe it's Elizabeth and Lori and I get on with PW Wood to talk this through and try and hatch out what are the options, what are the possibilities. I'm happy to organize that call, but I don't know whether that's needed in this case or not.
I will take you up on
Yeah.
that, because if this is not the only contract, whether they're bigger, that's the biggest one that's pending right now, but every little thing, like I wasn't kidding when I said, can we use the social center for 4-H meetings? The answer was, we need to get an extra, he kicked back two contracts to use a space and to partner with a community partner that like was not, I don't even understand. They're all the employees are there. The other, I don't know, the social center should be able to, they have kids there 24 hours or all the time. I mean, I just don't see the risk. I don't,
The social center doesn't have $1 million per occurrence general liability?
I don't remember what it was that he asked for. I think it was, I don't remember it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was still the general
Well,
liability.
that, if it's a program that they're running in their own building, I think the people are afraid that if people with another program come into their building, that makes it different than if it's a program that they're running themselves.
I'm with you. And
I'm telling you, this is, it's just,
well,
you know, tell
there
me.
isn't a solution because there isn't actually a financial solution unless one thing that we kicked around last summer was we pay the cost of them getting insurance, but that is a really
Oh,
bad
that's gonna
precedent to
be-
set to me.
If for an activity like that, I would say that is gonna be unbelievably expensive.
So
Look, hire
Elizabeth, I'll
Chris.
send you an email this week, you and Lori this week. We'll just at least have a goal of by Friday, we'll schedule a date for early January. I just know on my calendar, and I'm assuming on everybody's, the week's just booked. It's
For
just
sure.
gonna happen
Well,
this week.
The other piece of this to know is it's kind of a good thing that it is the holidays when our office is closed, because we have a staff member who is standing by waiting to start this work. That's what her assignment is right now. That's what her position requires her to do right now during this time period. And when we're, there's some things you have to do in the winter. So we have to work it out, but we should move on because I see what time it is.
Thank
But
you,
thank you,
Paul.
Paul. We'll take you up on that. Thank you.
Yep.
Are you done with the?
Yes.
ED department?
Thank you. I'm sorry, it was kind of
No,
That was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was. Important stuff. I have to leave about 7:10 because I'm in charge of 7:30 pickup.
We will be out of here. We will do that.
Sorry.
No, thank you for being here. The budget was really, we couldn't spend money as of January 1st without that, so that is done. Thank you.
Spend away. So policy 610 is our next item.
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. So you can, what I've done is, you'll see highlighted in yellow are the additions and in blue with the strike through, those are the deletions. We made a change. This is actually, based on Jefferson County's bereavement leave, because our old policy had a division of family members such that you've got different amounts of time off depending on the closeness, and it was a problem this year with a couple of times that it just didn't seem fair at all, and Jefferson County seemed way more equitable for various family members, with almost all of them being immediate and worth some time off. So we're just proposing this change. It hasn't been used a lot, but it's nice to have it when it's needed.
So is there a baseline for a relative, like if you had a second cousin?
So it's in the.
It
immediate
is
family
listed,
member list.
it lists everyone here, it's cousin. And if it was second cousin, I think that'd be Elizabeth's calling, you know.
Pretty generous.
Does any other member residing in the household include pets?
Not kidding, someone has asked that.
Yeah,
Not kidding.
yeah. That would be,
Because people who don't have children's pets are like.
Well,
children.
yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
Children, pets, or their children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that
So
would be
if
an
you-
ED call.
I don't like ED calls that are arbitrary. I like them to be specified, so I would really appreciate just taking a second to look at what the list of people included is. Yeah, I don't,
Our dog is our child, but this is a policy for humans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Human
It is.
human policy manual.
I mean, how bereaved do you need to be before you're not functional?
Well,
That's why you get benefit time.
You get sick, you can get sick leave for, you know, and you can augment bereavement leave also if you need more than the 3 days. You can use sick leave, vacation leave, personal time. It's personal time. I mean, we have pretty generous
We
have
policies on all that.
I'm in favor of this policy. When someone loses someone in their family, like, why am I gonna say, no, it was your aunt or your uncle? No, you know, we need to take care of each other when we're sad. And sometimes it's very practical, like making sure that another person in that household is safe. I don't have any problem with it, but if you guys want to qualify any of these.
I would move that we pass this if you find that, it, you know, then we revisit it.
Okay. I hear an approval of, I hear a motion to approve the
I'll second.
policy 610.
Okay, I'm
Thank you,
sorry,
Dan.
quick question.
Sure.
For the extended family, is it just? Am I reading this weird? It says you took out the extended family member and then it says.
You're right,
of
you're
any
right, right.
extension.
I think that's a great question. I might have missed what the heading should be for that one. I think that actually is for coworkers, pallbearers. I think that's what it is. Good catch. I think that just has the wrong heading. I can make that change.
Thank you.
So it's just family members?
No, that section is about coworker.
Is about coworkers, or when serving as a pallbearer in,
So should that actually
Yeah.
be bifurcated, so there is an extended family one and then there is a coworker one?
Well, it's kind of interesting because one up above says immediate family member, but then lists a bunch of extended family members.
Right.
Oh,
right, and the one above, it's possible, I missed both of those, that one above may just be family member.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
that
double
makes
check on
sense.
that.
Cause
Yeah.
you've crossed immediate out everywhere else.
Yep,
okay.
good calls.
Well, can we make a motion to approve based on the edits that we just mentioned to Lori?
Yes.
Great. Did I hear you? in-
Yeah, we can.
Thank you, Jackie.
So
Seconds. I'll second. Thank you, Chrissy. Any more discussion on this? Policy 610? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next up, to review the updated financial controls. So that's the other yellow and blue.
Yeah,
Do you guys like to highlight? Who would like to highlight?
I can run through this quickly. Mostly it's name changes to reflect the people who work here now instead of people who don't work here anymore. But so that's the number 6 on page 1. Then under grants and contracts, I'm not really sure why. We had at some point added that I would come to you for any amounts over $10,000 not included in the budget. And that I could apply for and enter into contracts up to $10,000 without board approval. Honestly, I think that's kind of a delay that we don't need to put in place, actually. I don't really remember the origin of it, but Paul, maybe you
Found that
do.
we needed to do that.
I don't know, Paul,
As
can you
part of-
inform that one?
That's a good question. So I'm not remembering off the top of my head either, Elizabeth, about that. Yeah, I don't remember that one either.
Well, I would say that we can change financial controls later, but there's some stuff in here that actually needs to be changed like now before we go review it more in detail. And I think that the change to just say that I can inform you of new grants or contracts at the next board meeting, it will protect, will allow me to do that. And we can revisit what the rationale was for the $10,000.
Did we agree, because it was not part of the process where I said anything up there. We changed the grant amount for review that you brought before the board for discussion. right?
That's why we need to update this, because I think that this didn't, I don't know, somehow this stayed in here after we changed that, what I thought was, but I don't really remember.
It's back in the minutes, so you can dig back through the minutes.
So for the time being, I would say we should do what is suggested here and mark out the blue and just leave the yellow, which covers what is being taken out, and then we can go back and take a look at the minutes and see why that got put there. Is that okay? And then on the next page, it's really, all the yellow things are really just corrections or clarifications. Nothing alarming there. The same in, on page 3, under the board of directors, it under the credit card and charges, all staff can get a Visa card, as well as Kate Graziano, who's a public health corps fellow. Then this purchase authorizations is something, I don't think we need to overthink it too much, but currently, $200, the staff has to get a pre-approval for anything over $200,000.
200.
I mean, $200. $200. And then we don't have a limit for the team leaders to make purchases. If you want to put one in place, we can.
But they're currently at 200, like the rest.
Like the
but
rest
this
of
is
the
just-
staff. So that might make sense if you want. Might make, yeah. So then if number 3, Lori is authorized to spend up to 500. I don't know, 350. We don't have that many expenditures that are that high, so we don't have, it's not a lot of pre-approvals, it's just an inconvenience to them. I don't know.
Lori, are you taking minutes, right?
I am,
Okay, these are my suggestions.
okay.
Page 1, I think all the, edits until you get to grants and contracts should be, approved, but I think you should keep line 3 and 4 for the time being until you've researched it further. And I think that line 2 of page 3 could be purchases up to $500 for those areas of question marks. And that would be,
I would agree with that.
that would be the motion I pass. Or, that's my motion.
My only hesitation on that one, I would respect whatever you want me to do, is really, it's just that sometimes the questions have come up about expenditures that I wouldn't have made, I personally wouldn't have made the same decision that the team leaders made.
Sure.
So it's worth a conversation, and in, I think all the cases I ended up agreeing with them, but I wanted to have the question and have the conversation. That's why I was kind of putting on the brakes a little bit.
Can I cut in for a second? So the purchases also include, like when we make a payment to someone for a stipend for the grant. So Cole has he had a lot of $1,000.
Oh, for
Payments.
status. Mhm.
So he would have to come to you first to get authorization. So that's why the team leaders, I'm thinking, need a higher, maybe a $2,000.
As I say, usually
But-
for us, it's about $1,500
Yeah,
that we need to do in second grade.
I'll respect that. Seems like there's workarounds, like I could just do a blanket one for any person receiving a stipend under this grant. You're authorized to process it, but 1,500 is, 2,000 seems really high to me. I don't know. I don't really have a basis for it. If 1,500 is sort of industry standard. Maybe I would just ask them that they can approve something, but I would ask them to have a conversation with me if there's any questionable ones. Or any high ones.
So it's a question of how much bandwidth you want to have in approving something, like, do you want to be a part of all these lower level conversations for something up to 350, or do you feel like your project needs to be managed?
Yeah, 350 does sound really low when you put it like that. No, I don't. Yeah, but the ones, 2,000 seems too high, so it's somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I don't think we have that many that are over 1,000. Do we?
No,
Except, yeah, just those
Except those
$1,000
stipends.
stipends, which
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
an ongoing thing.
Well, if we get the next term grant, there will be a whole bunch more, but I feel like I could do a blanket one for those.
So I would second Jackie's amendment for $1,500. Is that what you suggested?
Yes.
I can't even buy a binder without four people's approval.
I'm a little bit more like, okay, but
And obviously, if
Or-
someone makes a mistake and they go above $1,500 and you're like, why did you do that? There could be conversations.
I mean, they still.
You'll still have to see it.
I see it and I have to,
so
Yeah,
that's what happens is a lot of things that according to our controls need to be pre-approved. Or approved after the fact.
Yeah.
Because of such a small limit and they're, you know, they're doing something, they're out and they gotta get some, you know, bunch of supplies or something.
Yeah.
And it's not an individual purchase, like they're buying all the food and supplies for a meeting and it comes up to $300.
Well,
Yeah, but $300 is a lot different than 1,500
Yeah.
or 2,000.
For the general staff,
Yeah.
we're saying the lower amount,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for team leaders who are more involved in the contracts and stuff like that.
Right, I mean, I'm kind of leaning toward 1,000 because it's that stipend amount that is hopefully gonna be repeated with the new grant funding. And then I also wondered, Lori, do you want yours increased? I trust Lori with $1,000 at a time.
yeah, same.
Sure, I mean, yeah, and honestly, as a staff member who makes charges and makes purchases. It's not that often that we have to
Yeah.
go get an approval, and. Yeah, and then approvals are happening in Acumatica afterwards, so nothing's really getting by anyone. But I mean, I actually thought I was at 200 for a long time, really, till this year, where it's like, no, yours is 500. So, I'm used to getting the approvals, but I think it makes sense to make me and Jen and Cole 1,000.
The same.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right, so do I hear a motion to increase? Well.
Are
Okay,
you open to
Well,
that?
yeah, well,
I'm just making
Yes,
that
yeah,
amendment.
so the
Yeah.
amendment is
Yeah.
to increase line 2 and 3
Yeah,
to $1,000.
yeah.
And put Lori in there.
I agree.
yeah, and is there anything on the last page that we wanted? to-
So in the last page, you have a separate last page? Because
Yes.
we made a little change.
Oh,
I see it.
So that's why, on number 2 there. We added back in the $10,000 there.
so. Yeah, I can authorize up to 10,000, but over 10,000, I have to get an executive committee approval.
And that kind of is in line with.
Yeah,
Let's just go with that until,
we read closer.
Yeah.
And then.
So this is Daniel's motion, right? And
Correct.
then we have amendments, which I've noted.
So I would say, do I have a motion to approve with Daniel's amendments, this updated financial controls document?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Chrissy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tricia. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Okay, you finished that one right on time. Thank you, Chrissy. I know that's what I did. And then the rest is just-
Got her coat on.
It's just discussion. So.
If I'm late, I'm child.
We don't want you to have any-
It's a little cranky.
Have a great Christmas and have a great year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Happy
thank you.
holidays.
Okay. Did we kind of already?
Yeah, we did that.
Great,
Okay.
Yeah.
We got to
We'll
it.
move right by.
Lori and I will follow up with Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Great.
Paul.
Great.
Bye, Christine.
Bye.
Bye.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So we've got a January 14th online board orientation, 6 to 7 PM. So that's right before our next meeting. No, that's the
After, it's the
day.
day after our next.
The day after. Okay.
14th is, yeah, the next meeting is on January 13th.
Yeah. Okay.
And that I really encourage people to attend because it's just,
Good work.
Yeah, it's really a good review.
What is that? It's a meeting.
It's an online meeting. Paul is gonna lead it, and it's kind of some background about roles and responsibilities and.
I can
board
work from
member.
home.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Totally optional, totally via Zoom for everybody. It's not subject to open meetings law, and you know, we'll send out some materials ahead of time after the holidays and really just look to have an open dialogue and sharing.
Right, and then that leads me to ask, do we have a calendar, a full calendar for next year?
We usually set that in January, but we
Oh,
can
nice.
actually do a draft and maybe send that out earlier. Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay. Wonderful. The last thing is to mention the ED performance review. I received 33 responses to my survey.
Wow.
So I'm looking forward to going through that with Elizabeth. We have a date tomorrow. Yeah, great response. Rate, is that what you said? Yeah, we've got a lot of responses and a lot of people wrote, so thank you for responding. And some of you mentioned people to send the survey to, so thank you for that too.
That's great.
Great amount.
Yeah, not to prolong anything, but you know, the annual performance reviews, as this board has talked in the last multiple years, are the responsibility of the board. And just, you know, Ashley, just said hats off to you consistently each year you've done that. And it's, you know, yes, it's a standard, but it a lot of times doesn't happen, and feedback's a gift. And how do you know if you don't ask people how things are going? And it's always a learning opportunity, not just on things that might need improvement, more so ideas hatch of how could we grow. And well, you know, here's some areas that that happen with the whole association. And so just, you know, thank you, Ashley and Elizabeth for leading that and going through it.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Some people took a lot of time to write a lot of reviews, so it'll be great to go through that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I also just wanted to mention, I haven't had a chance to check in with committee leaders or executive committee about serving next year, so I will be checking in with people about that. And I'm also looking for someone to replace me as president, and I'm going to stay on the board, and I don't have that replacement yet, so just letting you all know. But I can definitely serve till May. That's definitely my cutoff though, so. I'll be in touch, and also looking for it. The biggest thing is the nominating committee, really, for president that I need help with, and yeah, and more stuff too. But
So we have to scramble the whole executive committee?
I don't think we have to scramble at all. I don't think no one's term ends next year. Yeah, I
Okay.
think you
No
and I
one's term ends
technically have
now.
one more.
There's
Oh, yeah, Lee and
Ashley,
technically
Tricia,
next
and
year.
Daniel's terms end in December 2025. So you can stay on the board, but the officer roles are different. So nobody needs to worry about it until January, and at the January meeting, we can kind of map it out a little bit more. But there's recommendations for board members are really important, and Jackie, that might be a nice time to thank you for your service. Knowing that you're not coming back, if you change your mind, that would be fine. But if you can think of someone who would be willing to replace you or would make a good replacement, or whose input you know about through your work, who you would want to recommend, it would be really great to have ideas. And as Ashley's pointed out, you do not have to be a farmer to serve on this board.
Tell Rocky he's got nothing else to do.
Get his wife to do it. She's
There
a
you
real
go.
plan
There you go.
person.
Oh,
So she
I'm not
graduated through the program, but.
I'm not supposed to have any, these conversations. I'm supposed to refer them to whoever is being referred to them, but honestly, every time I see a Cal sticker on someone's car, I'm like, mhm.
Yeah.
So please.
Alright.
I don't know when our next executive committee meeting, if we have one scheduled, do we know?
No.
It would be nice if we had 2 minutes before we all leave. Or we just to talk.
Sure.
Okay.
Where do we sit with the board now? Where are we for numbers?
We need 2 more people.
And that includes Mike,
Michael Kuba is, yeah,
is.
I think you met him at the annual meeting, right? Didn't you, Lawrence? He's from Crown Point, it's Crown Point Dairy, and
Yes.
and his wife Michelle do butter and
Yeah.
stuff. So he will join us and he has no previous board experience, so he will kind of be representing the boots on the ground farmer people. Said that he really wants to get more comprehension of what what the roles and responsibilities are, so I've already sent him the info about the orientation and, yeah.
And then you need two more people besides.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really hard to, I mean, Jackie can attest to this, that she lives in Lake Placid, it's hard to come and sit here and get home late on Mondays. I know it's almost the same for
45
you.
minute.
Yeah, so it is really the same for you.
I don't drive fast at night, so.
Yeah,
How
so
long
we
my
do
car
try and get
behind
out
me?
earlier. This one's long because we had the budget conversation, the insurance conversation, but it's really a lot to ask, but it's really important. And, so we don't want to be super heavy on Champlain Valley people only. It's not the right approach, but unless we have 6 people in the room, the other people can't join, we can't have a meeting. It's no quorum. Even if there's 4 people on Zoom, but there's only 4 people in the room, it's not a quorum.
Well, we should start having a conversation about potentially moving board meetings periodically.
That's possible. We can move the board meeting location, and also in January, y'all can decide if this is the time and place that you want to have it. That could be just that it's. Yeah. And who knows, but they say that this update is that they have awarded the contract for the new building at the fairgrounds and that it has to be completed by November 2025. We'll believe it when we see it.
That's awesome.
They do have to expend the money. That does not mean there will be all the full build out of the interior. I have no idea when they move in. I'm gonna guess spring 2026. That's a little closer, not for you, but for you.
All right, I think I need a motion to adjourn the next meeting. Thank you.
I'll second
Al.
that. I think Jackie was,
Thank you for all
out on the
the
seals.
all in favor.
We leave this here.
Yes, you can, or you can, you're welcome to take it home, a lot of light reading.
Thank you so
But
much.
we keep up, we just keep
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.
Happy holidays, everybody. Our paths across soon.
You look great. You really are looking good.
Thank you, Trish.
And you're
Try-
not.
Appreciate that. That's what wake up calls do to you once in a while, right?
Yeah, well,
And look, you're
working.
not even shaking and shivering, sitting out in the cold of forest like that. Yeah, that snow.
If you-
Yeah.